My team and I, Hannah Sanders, believe that charities are more equipped to handle the problem of feeding the world rather than governments. Our reasons behind this are both empirical and non-empirical. First, I'm going to talk about the efficiency, the dedication, and the specialization in each of the two categories. Charities are more efficient based on the fact that they have boots on the ground. They have people that are out there communicating, finding the needs, and providing the solutions to these needs. Whereas the government, in terms of efficiency, can only send aid in the form of money to a foreign country and hope that it ends up in the right hands. Charities in the past have been able to devote over 97% of their funds to doing exactly what they have in mind, which is typically feeding those impoverished. The government, however, is more likely to subsidize housing and provide for welfare or unemployment benefits, aside from simply providing food, which is an absolute essential. Dedication. Charities are dedicated because the people that form the charities themselves have a reason for being there. Government, on the other hand, is less dedicated to such issues because they are not in our borders, even though it is very clear that there are problems with poverty and malnourishment within our borders. This dedication within the government is also lacking due to the fact that there are many other issues that the government has to deal with on a daily and yearly basis, aside from the fact that kids are going to bed hungry. Schools in America have also been able to make sure that students do get a meal during the school day and school year. This allows for students to not have to worry about where their meal is coming from when they are in school. However, sometimes this falls short if the parents don't fill out the correct paperwork, or they go about it wrong, or say they make just a little too much money. This is no longer available to the students. Charities, in the aspect of specialization, are able to focus on one problem, the problem that their mission statement is all about. This means that they can devote all of their resources and all of their attention on the problem at hand that they're trying to solve. The government, however, is not able to do that. The government is not specialized. However, the offices within it are. That does not mean that the entity of the government itself is. This specialization is extraordinarily important because of the fact that without it, you aren't focusing on the things that you need to focus on. Also, it's clear that charities and humanitarian organizations are better equipped to handle this widespread issue because of the fact that some governments, whether we like to admit it or not, are corrupt. And this money, not even talking about in the United States at this point, this money may end up in the hands of somebody who chooses to either keep it for themselves or invest it in other endeavors, aside from simply feeding the hungry. Cultivating the earth is honestly the most important labor that we can engage in, but it's one that very few people do due to the fact of ignorance. Charities are able to be there and show the communities how to better sustain for themselves, whereas governments can't do that because they don't have the resources available to them to send the people outside of their own country and their own entity in a way that charities themselves do. Everyone in my group believed that charities are better equipped to focus on this issue. Brandon stated that he believes that the government is corrupt and that the money doesn't always go towards those that are in need, and that charities are better equipped to follow up and teach people how to get away from depending on this government assistance, whereas the government is simply going to continue providing. There's a saying that states, if you teach a man to fish, he will be fed for a lifetime. But if you simply give the man a fish, then he will depend on it for the rest of his life. So, if we teach these people what they need to learn and what they need to do in order to survive, that better equips them than simply sending them aid. Brittany agreed with Brandon and myself and stated that she also believes that governments can be corrupt systems, and since we can't measure that in science terms, there are statistics that show that the government spends less on feeding the hungry and definitely spends more on subsidizing other endeavors. The government spent $351.9 billion on the welfare in 2018 of the $4.1 trillion they took in the form of taxes. Roughly 8% of the taxes on paying people run the operation of welfare and of Medicaid, and nearly a fourth of that 8% was given to the poor of relief or income security, rent subsidies, and unemployment benefits. The 12% of our population that's living in poverty, we know, are depending on the government to send them money in order to be able to survive. Erica also agreed and stated that the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that about 815 million people of the 7.6 billion in the world are suffering from chronic undernourishment in 2016. And the best way to target that is to have the charities contribute to this need specifically. That statistic was from worldhunger.org. Trevor believed that the charities are more sincere and more personal, and that humans should be able to come together in order to fight a catastrophic disaster which is occurring right below our fingertips, instead of simply the government trying to do that when they could be focusing elsewhere. All of this said and done, we believe that charities are more equipped to handle the issue of feeding the hungry inside of America's borders and outside of America's borders due to the fact they are more sincere, they're more personal, they have a higher efficiency rate, they're more dedicated, and they have the ability to specialize, which is something that the government simply does not have. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation over feeding the hungry, and we hope that you have a great day, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.